Hey guys, this is the WalterFootball.com After Dark show for October 11th, 2023. We're going to do the Week 6 NFL picks against the spread for the 2023 NFL season. Jacob Kamiker, who's usually the guest on Tuesday night, is out this week. He will be back next week. We have a great pinch hitter here. Quacky Takes with Tommy is joining me today. We've had him on before. Tom, how are you? And, for people seeing you for the first time, do you want to do a brief introduction?
Yeah, Walt, thanks so much for having me on. I am Quacky T, or Quacky Takes with Tommy on Twitter and TikTok. I did some daily sports picks for a while. I still throw in my opinions on sports and especially futures nowadays. But lately I've been streaming video games, Super Mario World speedruns, just kind of, spreading it around, jack of all trades sort of thing. But I like to think I know something about sports, and I'm honored, of course, to be on here again, and hopefully I can pinch hit all right for Jacob, who always does a great job. So
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. I've been talking to you about sports betting for so long. It's been like 2 decades
two
or more
decades
even.
almost,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's crazy. So yeah,
Crazy how that works.
yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the show. And we have a joint super contest entry anyway, so we're always
Yeah.
discussing picks. Let's get to it. Before we do, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. All that would help us out a lot. If you want to help support the show, word of mouth is the best way. So just send the URL link to anyone who might like the show. So all that would be appreciated. So a brief recap from week 5. It was a complete disaster. I think it was my worst week since week 7 last year. It was just like kind of strange timing because last year we had like a historic September. Like we were 17-3 in our super
Yeah.
contest entry. I finished 3rd place in the circa September contest. And then like weeks 5 and 7, it just fell apart. And then like lo and behold, week 5 again this year. I don't know what it is about October. It just gets really tough to handicap, I guess. But it's kind of I did a lot of like soul searching and thinking, and I think that we can bounce back. How has your season gone so far before we get to these picks?
Yeah, it's been interesting because I'm having, and I think part of it is I think part of the issue is comparing ourselves to last year. It's that a 17-3 start is going to be so hard to emulate. I mean, I at least hope we were going to get close. Off to a slow start, and usually I'm the same way, Walt. Like usually, I mean, we've been handicapping games together for 2 decades, like we said. It always seemed like weeks like 5 through 8 or so, it always seems to be where we can often get tripped up. So hopefully we can turn it around here a little bit. And really, after this past week, it's not much, almost nowhere to go but up. So, but I've got some plays here that I really like, and I was looking through what you had. We're on the same side for some, and then I'm on the opposite sides of a few. So, looking forward to seeing the having the discussion here.
Yeah, for sure. I have no idea what you like, so I'm looking forward to seeing what different opinions we have. The first game is Broncos at the Chiefs. This line opened up 10.5. It's still 10.5. There is some weather in this game. Sounds like it might be super windy, like 25 miles an hour. It could be rain. Although you never know. Dylan, who was our guest a couple times on the fantasy mock drafts in August, he's a weatherman, and he actually messaged me. He said that the rain may not be here, but it sounds like it's going to be windy. But he said you never know, a lot can change. So that is definitely true. So anyway, with that in mind, who do you like in this game?
Well, before we get into the game, Walter, I think it's really important that we talk about the latest between Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Since
Oh.
that's, if I never hear another thing about those two, it'll be too soon. I mean, I'm sorry. I just gotta spit out an unpopular opinion here. I mean, I love Travis Kelce as a player, but it's like most obnoxious player in the NFL is dating the most overrated artist of our time. Stop showing her.
Wow.
Anyhow, I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion, so I'm sure the comments will let me have it later. But excuse me, I like Kansas City here, but not a whole lot. Just for one unit. As we've discussed in the past, I really like it seems like just taking the better team on these Thursday night games seems like the way to go. It's pretty obvious who the better team is here in Kansas City. There's just no way I can back Denver here. I'm really not sure at this point if the situation can be salvageable. I mean, last year we saw this team with Hackett, and we kept saying, early on. Well, I think we caught on relatively quickly after about 4 weeks or so. We were like, okay, like no more. But then later at the end of the season, and this is part of the reason I only like the Chiefs for about one unit. We took the Broncos both times when they played the Chiefs near the end of the season when things were already, a lost cause pretty much. And even one of those, I think, I know Russell Wilson got hurt. They had a Rippon in there. And they were really terrible then. They covered both games, and I know it's a completely different situation. There's sharp money on the Broncos again for the fourth. I guess fourth time could be a charm here. But the thing, and I'm going to bring this up again when we go over the Miami game. But like the Broncos and the Dolphins, like they will forever, well, not forever, but the rest of the season live off the 70-20 game. Both sides will. So I think that's something to keep in mind too, at least to keep it in our back pocket. But also, I only like the Chiefs here a little bit because, they really haven't looked that great, even in the last 2 weeks. I don't think, the scores of the last couple games, they weren't as close as the score indicated. But I mean, I think, they didn't look like the Chiefs really against, two who I think are, quite inferior opponents, especially with Minnesota and the Jets. So I don't know. Coming off a short week, I really do. I still do like the Chiefs. Again, there's no way I can back Denver here. I'll be surprised. I mean, I'll be surprised at this rate if Sean Payton makes it out of the season. Maybe they learn their lesson with Hackett. I love the analogy you always use. If you go on a bad date, you know right away you got to ditch it. But yeah, I'm going to take the Chiefs. I like the Chiefs here. Just for a little bit, probably like one unit, but that's where I'm going here.
Well, first of all, I need to really get on you with this Taylor Swift take. Like, this is the greatest love story of our generation. How dare you? How dare you disparage?
Yeah, I'm way out of line.
Yeah, I know. Seriously, never on the show again, Tom. Anyway, yeah, so no, I'm with you here. I think the concern you had is kind of warranted because we took Denver twice at the end of last year and they covered both times for us. I think the second time was a little easier for them because the Chiefs already beat them, and I don't think the Chiefs were really had them on their radar. Mm-hmm. Whereas like the first time the Chiefs had a big lead and then the Broncos came back, and I guess like something like that could happen again. Like Russell Wilson is like the king of getting these garbage touchdowns to make games closer than they seem. So if this game were on a Sunday, mm-hmm. I think I would actually consider Denver. The problem is this is a short week. And as you said, the short week really benefits the superior team because the inferior team doesn't have enough time to practice and devise a game plan to like counter what the good team is doing. And like, if you want to put a number to it, the double-digit favorites on Thursday night are 24-10 against the spread. It's like pretty significant. Yeah, it's a big number. And it's a long sample size. Like 34 games is not a huge sample size, but this is going back to like 1989, which is as far as our database goes. So, and one thing that people say, I've heard this a lot actually leading up to this week, is like, oh, the Chiefs never cover these big spreads. I've heard that opinion a few times. Yeah. That was true in the past, but the Chiefs defense is really good now. They're in the top 10 of EPA. And that wasn't the case before. Like last year in the first half of the year, they were like middling. They were like in the middle of the pack. And I thought they were overrated until at the end of the year when they had some of the young guys come on. Trent McDuffie came back from injury. George Karlaftis took a big step. Like these are guys who have really taken a big leap in their second year. So I think this Chiefs team is for real. Even like last week, like it was a 7-point game, but they were up by 2 touchdowns against the Vikings. And like there was a lot of sharp money in Minnesota. And like the Vikings kind of let them down. And I think it's just because the Chiefs are just so much better. Against the Jets, I think they got a little tripped up. The Jets are a great defense. The Jets beat the Bills at home. So not too concerned about those past performances. And Denver's defense is atrocious. Like, I just don't know how they keep up with the Chiefs. That's another thing to remember, too, is like last year when we brought back the Broncos, they had a good defense. It was just their offense that sucked. Like this year, the defense is the worst in the NFL. So I feel like the Chiefs should be able to score easily. So I like the Chiefs here. The only concern I have is the weather. Like if it's super windy, that could be like a neutralizer. But I still would take the Chiefs for a couple units.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And like the only reason I would take Denver is as I deem it a quacky feeling based on absolutely nothing at this point. But again, it would be a smaller play for me, at least for here. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
We had a question about the Chiefs' offensive line. And let me actually get that question up. G Chalk asking how the Chiefs' offensive line has been this year. It's been pretty good outside of Jawan Taylor, who keeps like false starting almost like every play because he just like lines up offside. I don't know what is going on there. Like he just has severe issues. Like I feel like if the Chiefs do a trade before the trade deadline, should be for a tackle to replace him because like I think that could hurt them in the future. Stewie and Red Eye says Chiefs receivers garbage. That's another move they can make. They can maybe trade for a receiver. Like if the Buccaneers start losing, like Mike Evans could be a decent option for them. Or like maybe I would say Devontae Adams, but like they're not going to do a trade with the Raiders. Chris the Cop says Chiefs have been getting help from the refs lately, especially when they played the Jets.
Oh, sorry to say that. I'm just kidding.
Well, like I feel like all the best players, like in every sport, like throughout time, have gotten calls from the refs. Like I remember like Shaquille O'Neal. I remember him. Like he would always get the calls. Like Michael Jordan would always get the calls. Like these guys, like they're great for a reason, and like they get respect. And Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. So I think that kind of makes sense. Chris Williams says Justin Jefferson getting hurt. Yeah, that definitely impacted the game for sure. Lion King says Detroit covers versus Tampa 45-10 blowout. We had so we'll discuss that game in a little bit. I think it's interesting.
Yeah. I hope you're right, Lion King. I hope you're right.
Kevin says 10.5 is a lot for a divisional Thursday game, but Denver is just bad. And Don says, Walt, what's the ATS margin for Denver? It doesn't worry you. They have to come down sooner or later. I don't know what you mean by ATS margin. Like Denver's been terrible this year. They lost 70-20. Like I know that you can't put a lot into that game, but they have lost by 50. Like they can get blown out. Their defense is so bad. This is not the Denver team we remember recently. So Kevin, I'm going to look this up for you. 10.5 is a lot for a divisional Thursday game. Once we get to the second game, and Tom gives his opinion, I'm going to look this up. So the second game is this is the London game. It's the third London game of the year. We have two more Germany games. Can't wait to get these over. I hate waking up in the morning. Like, and I'm on the East Coast. Like, I can't imagine like why like waking up at 6 a.m. to set my lineups on the West Coast. Just so brutal. Anyway, it's Ravens Titans line open up. Ravens -4. It went down to 3.5, and then it went back up to 4. So who do you like here?
I like Baltimore here, but only for a little bit, maybe one unit. Last week, this has been such a weird season. Last week, I liked the Steelers, but I was hesitant because there was so much public money on them. And a lot of times when that happens, the Steelers don't come through. But the Ravens, and maybe they shouldn't have. I mean, the Ravens really beat themselves last week. I mean, Steelers-Ravens is always going to be a tough game. The Ravens did have their chances. But maybe the Ravens had what I just came up with earlier today as Jaguar syndrome, who blow the game right before they go overseas. Like just look bad. But I like him here. I really can't seem to figure out the Titans. I mean, seems like every other game they're doing. They've scored 15, 27, 3, 27, and 16. This is just I really can't seem to figure out what we're going to get with this Titans team. I think Baltimore is definitely capable. They had some big missed opportunities in that game against the Steelers. The only thing, the only other thing is, is this, could this be a look ahead next week with and I'm not putting too much stock into this with the Ravens playing the Lions. That's going to be a tough matchup. It's not like obviously not a divisional matchup or anything, but that's going to be a tough one for them. And I don't know if the Ravens have. I don't think that they have played overseas yet. Now, I mean, I don't know how much stock you can put into that, but I can't figure out this Titans team. I think the Ravens have the talent, but they've looked slightly a little bit better than mediocre to me. I'll probably take them for a little bit over, for just a little bit, probably one unit. What do you think about this one, Walt?
Well, usually, and I feel like if Jacob were on, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think he'd reference that Mike Vrabel has an excellent record as an
Right.
underdog of 3 or more. I think he's 24-10 against the spread as an underdog of 3 or more.
Hmm.
The only caveat there is like I feel like if he's playing a team that is just so much better than his, he can't really make it up. Like we saw that against the Browns. It was week 3 against the Browns. Like they just got blown out. So it does happen that he doesn't cover these large spreads. So I'm actually kind of curious to see where Jacob would fall in this. So for me, when I handicap the Titans, I look at two things. Like one, how good is the opposing deep passing attack, because their secondary is so bad. We've seen it like whenever they played a good passing attack this year, they've really struggled. And Baltimore has a good passing attack. I think like Zay Flowers like really opens things up for them. They have
Hmm.
Mark Andrews, they have Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham, Nelson Aguilar. Like all these guys are like mediocre, but Zay Flowers is really good, and he just missed out on having a great game last week. He dropped the deep pass, and
Yeah. Yeah.
he also fell down on the throw that like he would have scored. Like the Ravens, like they lost to the Steelers, but they were like so many plays away just from winning. Like I feel like they could have blown out the Steelers if they played their A game.
Hmm.
Instead, like, we got their like D- F game from them, and yet they still almost won. Um, we've seen the Ravens like kind of trip up a little bit. Like it seems like every odd week is weird. It's like 1-3-5. Like those games like they struggled, but like the even games they've done well. Um, so anyway, like I think the Ravens have the passing attack to take advantage of the Titans secondary, but this I think is the bigger mismatch. So the second thing I look at is if the opposing team could stop Derrick Henry, and we saw it last week with the Colts. The Colts shut down Derrick Henry. The Colts have a good run defense. The Ravens have an even better run defense. I think that you could kind of put it on par with the Browns. The Browns, I think, are third against the run, and the Ravens are top 5 as well. So they should be able to shut down Derrick Henry, and I feel like they should be able to win this game. I'm a little worried that there's sharp money on Tennessee, but maybe they're just looking at Vrabel. So this is
Hmm.
not like a big play for me or anything. So it sounds like we're kind of on the same page here.
Yeah.
And by the way, I looked up. We had the question or concern about. Oh, here it is. Kevin says 10.5 is a lot for a divisional Thursday game. So actually, underdogs of 10.5 or more in divisional Thursday games are 4-7 against the spread all time. So like it's not a big sample size, obviously, 11 games, but just goes to show that they haven't covered. 4-7 is like what 36% or something. So yeah, I don't think that's a concern at all. Um, so anyway, yeah, like again, I'm not like too big on this game, so yeah, we're on the same
Hmm.
page. Uh, Kevin says Baltimore traveled over Monday, Tennessee waiting until Friday. I hadn't seen that. That's interesting.
I haven't seen
I
that
mean,
either.
I trust Mike Vrabel. So maybe he knows better than, but then again, I also like John Harbaugh. Like these are two really good coaches, and it's like this is like a situation where like Vrabel is like usually the better coach, but that's not really the case here. Like they're both really good. Yeah, I guess Golden Glide says I think they're waiting till Friday because they don't want to get revved up before the game and get all psyched up on the weekend. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if like I said, like I guess each coach has their own philosophy. It should be interesting to see what happens. I think it really benefited Jacksonville that they were overseas for a week against the Bills. So
Definitely.
it definitely sounds bad for Tennessee, but maybe Mike Vrabel knows better than us. Or everyone else, I guess. The next game is Redskins at the Falcons. This line open up Falcons -2.5. It's still 2.5, so it hasn't moved. So who do you like in this game?
I'm actually on I'm actually on a different side than you on this one. I like the Falcons for maybe 2 units here. The Commandos. Let me. The Commandos. Their defensive line hasn't really shown up yet, and I don't really want to bank. I don't really want to back them until they prove otherwise. Especially with Robinson in the back. If the Falcons decide to run the ball finally. But I also think that after I wonder because Ritter has looked horrific at times, but I think this Falcons team has a very underrated defense. Maybe people don't realize that, and also I think coming off that that walk off victory against Houston could give them some momentum. Maybe that's really what they needed. They're kind of because they've had some games where they're like they look really like they looked really bad against Detroit. Now, I mean, I know it's Detroit, and they're one of the best teams in the NFL, at least in my opinion, and I know that you share my sentiment too. But I think Houston is underrated too. I think maybe coming off that that emotional win, and we're getting a good number at -2.5 at home. The Commandos just I don't know. Like I know they really got embarrassed by the Bears have been putting up some points the last couple weeks, and I know that like Commandos played the Eagles really close, but I like the Falcons in the spot. I think coming off that emotional win and with their underrated defense, and with a number of 2.5, I like them. I actually like them for 2 units here.
Oh, Chris saying you better take the money line. Yep.
Okay.
That was brutal last week because the line was 1.5 all week, and I just didn't bet it, and by kickoff Sunday it was 2.5. So I'm like, whatever, 2.5, 1.5, same thing. Like, no, not really, because the Falcons won by 2, and like that was 4 units I lost. So in the super contest we pushed that one. So yeah, I mean the Falcons have had a couple of those. They won by 1 against the Packers, and here they won by 2 last week against the Texans. So like this is a game I kind of went back and forth on. I thought I was going to go with the Falcons, then I was like, I actually like the Redskins. And then I thought some more. I'm like, wait, I like the Falcons, and then I went back to the Redskins. So the fact that we disagree here is not like too concerning for me, because like I could probably easily flip flop this game or this pick, like when we see something on the injury report. To me, though, I think that I wanted to buy low on the Redskins just because they got blown out on Thursday. And I thought that was like pretty predictable. Like I said that like I wish handicapping was that easy, because like that was the easiest call I thought last week. And like I actually was planning on submitting my super contest entry early on the Bears, because I just thought that like it was way too easy of a call, but the line ended up being 5.5 instead of 7, so I just didn't do it. But anyway, I think that the Redskins got kind of like a bad rap from what happened last week. Like they were coming off an emotional loss against the Eagles. They were big favorites suddenly, and there's a game this week that kind of mirrors that. But I think that they were just flat against the Bears, and they just didn't show up. So like coming off an embarrassing loss like that, I think that I like them here. They have more time to prepare for Atlanta. The Falcons are coming off that emotional win that could be harmful for them. Just as this young team that doesn't have like a track record of success. But I do like the matchup for Atlanta, though. That's the thing. Like all the emotional / motivational stuff like says the Redskins should cover, but I think that Atlanta should be able to run on the Redskins, who are 27th against the run. The Redskins also have trouble against the deep pass, like so Desmond Ridder could play well again. And yeah, you mentioned Atlanta's defense, like they've done really well. Like they held Detroit to 20 in Detroit. They held the Jaguars to 16. The Jaguars scored 23, but 7 came off the pick 6. And then last week they held the Texans to 19, and it was really 16 if you discount the 3 off the fumble. So like Atlanta's defense is really good. And they should be able to get pressure on Sam Howell, and Sam Howell does really poorly with pressure. So like it's a weird thing. It's weird dynamics. Like the matchup says Atlanta should win, but then again, I think the Redskins are going to have that edge, the motivational edge from the blowout loss, and also the extra time. So I feel like you can almost flip a coin here. I just think this is just way too close to call. I think that like one of these teams is going to win by 3 or fewer. Like it's going to be 1, 2, or 3 point win for one of these teams. So I don't know. I'm just going to go with the Washington from now. But like I said, I changed my mind.
Gotcha. So Ridder undefeated at home.
That's true, but he didn't cover last week, and that's all that matters. It's good teams win, and good teams win, great teams cover.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Golden Lie says, I really like the Falcons. Just couldn't believe that the stat they threw out there, never losing at home a game with Ridder. I don't know. Like, yeah, you go back to college and everything, but like, I don't know how sustainable that is. Like, they were down by 12 against the Packers in the second half, week 2, and they were, they almost lost to the Texans. So like, it's going to happen where they lose at home. So just it's like one of those trends I don't like. Like sometimes trends are good if you can explain them logically and stuff like that, and have like a huge sample size. But this seems like one of those stupid trends that like doesn't matter at all.
John Ridder.
Right. All right. Next game we have Vikings at the Bears. So we had some major news in this game. Vikings open up -3 down to 2.5. So Tuesday morning is reported that Justin Jefferson's out. He's on injured reserve, so he's going to miss the next 4 games. And I think someone knew that on Monday because there's a lot of money that came in on Chicago on Monday and dropped the line for 3 to 2.5. So that in mind, who do you like in this game?
I really like the Bears a good bit here now. Especially if especially if the weather, is going to be windy, as looks like it could be the case with several games this week. But I think that plays better to Fields running the ball. But I mean, the Bears are home underdogs. They played well. They put up a lot of points. Their offense finally woke up these last 2 games. Yeah, I know that they played really bad or subpar teams in Denver and the Commandos, but the Vikings are terrible too. And we're like the only ones that know it. We've been saying it for over a year now, and especially without Jefferson. I mean, especially as a home underdog, I really like that too. The score. Just looking at the score of the Vikings Chiefs games, I know it looked close, but I mean, I don't think that game the score. I don't think the game was as close as the score indicated, if I can get the words out here. But I really like the Bears play here. I remember I made a video last year. It was actually when the Vikings played the Commandos, and we took the Commandos plus 3.5, and they lost by 3. But I was saying I think that the Vikings are a bunch of frauds, and I still feel that, and I know the home road thing doesn't factor in as much, but I mean the fact that they're favored on the road. I mean, what have they done? I haven't thought. I was telling you this last week, Walter, and I think most people are probably familiar with this. But the Vikings, what did were they 12-5 or 11-6 last year, and they had a negative point differential?
I think they're 13-4 actually. And
were they 13? Were they that good? Jeez.
Yeah,
negative point differential. So I mean, the Vikings haven't done anything in a season and 5 weeks that have made me think otherwise yet. And now they're favored on the road against a Bears team that's shown that they can score. And yeah, I know it's against bad teams, but to me, the Vikings aren't a very good team either. So I like the Bears here. I'd say for about 3 units. I like them a good bit.
So I like the Bears a lot at +3. Before the Jefferson news, I didn't know that he was gonna be out for 4 weeks. I thought that maybe his status is up in the air, and maybe he'd be ruled out eventually later in the week. I thought he'd miss 1 game, but I thought that maybe there's a chance he would play. So I like the Bears a lot less here at 2.5. It's not just the number. Obviously 3 is the primary key number in the NFL. Most games land on 3. And when the spread is 2.5, the odds of a game landing on 3 is 15.56%. So that's a big thing to relinquish here, but that's not my big concern here. And actually I have 2 issues here. And I still like the Bears a little bit, but one concern I have is first of all, when the Vikings were favored by 3 and they possibly had Jefferson in, I thought it was a really bad spot for them because they put a lot into that Chiefs game. It was almost the Super Bowl, and they lost. And I thought that getting up for an inferior team as a 3-point favorite on the road is kind of considerable. And I thought that everyone expected them to win, and I thought they would kind of be flat. So now that they're favored by only 2.5 and they don't have Jefferson, I think that could give them a little bit more focus. So okay, maybe we need to play a little bit harder here because we don't have our best guy. And I think that they're going to take the Bears a little bit more seriously now than they would have otherwise. Second thing I have here, and this is in relation to what Matthias was asking. He was asking, what is the Bears EPA? What is the Vikings EPA? So it's a good question. I'll tell you. The Vikings EPA is their I should probably tell you for certain. Okay, they are 19th, and the Bears are 30th. Overall, their rankings, the Vikings are 17th in offense, which seems low. It feels like they should be higher. 17th in offense and 21st in defense. Now, keep in mind that offense is going to get worse with that Jefferson, but still, they have other good weapons. So Vikings 17th and 21st. The Bears are 18th and 31st. So, like, by far the weakest unit on this field is going to be the Bears defense. So I think that the Vikings, even without Jefferson, should have more success here. Now, the win could play a factor. I think that's going to benefit the Bears. As you said, Justin Fields could run. They're going to unleash Deontay Foreman, who was great down the stretch last year. So I think the Bears have some advantages, like the wind will help, and the Vikings generally not good in these outdoor conditions. So, like I said, I still like the Bears. But like I feel like their edges are kind of like lost here, and I think that not getting the 3 with the Vikings are still a better team than the Bears. Not getting the 3 with the inferior team kind of hurts. So whereas like this would have been on the Super Contest maybe at +3, at +2.5, not nearly as bullish on this game.
Mm-hmm. And that's I do think you make a really good point there, because without Jefferson they might be more focused, and it's one of those spots, how it's like it seems like backwards logic where I would actually like them at +3 with Jefferson than I like them at +2.5 without. So how like sometimes you just think, because they might be more motivated to get up for that's a good point. But I think I still like the Bears. Maybe I'll drop it to like 2 units. I did say 3 units here, but we'll see. I'll definitely track the weather pretty closely in this game and see how that factors in as well too. But as we get closer to game day.
Yeah, for sure. And the weather, as Dylan told us, like the weather can change a lot. So it could be like fine and like no winds. So it's strange. Chris asking, over makes sense, but high wind potential impact the game too. When it calls for like high winds, I usually go under. I usually don't bet totals. I remember this one game. This is like right when after I moved back from college, and like before I moved to my house, I was still living in my parents' house. It was like '08 or something like that. There's a game in Philly, and I was walking my dogs before, like an hour before the game, and like no joke, like the wind almost knocked me over. It's like so hard. And I remember like man, how is this game going to go over today? So like I went home and I bet the under, and actually ended up winning. So like that kind of like resonates to me. Like if I see like super heavy winds, I usually bet under, but I'm not
Yeah,
like a big totals better at all.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's go to the next game. We have Seahawks at the Bengals. This line opened up Bengals minus 2.5. It's gone to 3, and then it as soon as it hit 3, like a couple hours later, it dropped to 2.5. There's still some 3s out there. Actually, as of like a couple hours ago when I looked. So who do you like here?
I'm actually going to be on the Bengals here for maybe 1 or 2 units, and here's why. I mean, I'm I've been following. I'm a big fan of the Bengals team. I mean, they've obviously fallen far below expectations so far this season. I think they really, I said this last week when we were talking about our Super Contest picks. I ended up leaving it off the card, but I did like the Bengals last week because I said they really needed this game, and I think they need this game too. I mean, if they don't, they're going to play the 49ers and the Bills after this. They lose this game, and then they could be looking at 2-6. I mean, they're going to play 2 of the best teams after this, and the Seahawks are another. It's like the Seahawks and the Broncos are like the 2 teams that we just like seem to always like do like the opposite of like what we think they'll do. I'm still, I know Burrow with his injuries is a question mark. I still think I might take an injured Burrow over Geno Smith, even if the conditions are windy. The Seahawks are coming off a bye, but like really, like other than the victory over the Lions, which that's a big win for them. Obviously, we were really high on the Lions, but what have they really done otherwise? Like they got crushed by the Rams. That Panthers game was a lot closer than the score indicated. It was. I mean, the Panthers were covering through 3. I think I can't remember. They were leading at halftime.
Yeah, they were up like they were up 13-12 in the third quarter, I think.
Yeah, they were still leading and covering by the third quarter, and they beat the Giants. I mean, oh wow, like so it's like the Seahawks. I mean, I do think they are a pretty good team. I think they're slightly overrated, in my opinion. The Bengals need this game. Obviously Burrow is a big question mark, but I'm gonna take the Bengals here in this spot.
Well, I said this quote last week, and it didn't pan out because you mentioned it for the Bengals Cardinals game. Like they have to win the game, and I said, as a legendary handicapper, Smoking Dave Koken once said, if a team needs to win, they're probably not good in the first place.
Which I agree with. I agree with typically, but I feel like, and this is a much different situation. Sorry to interject just real quick, but last year we were kind of saying the same thing. I think the Bengals looked worse at the beginning of the season than they did last year, and then they ran off 9, 10 in a row, whatever it was, and then they looked like the Bengals that we knew. So sorry, I just wanted to interject with that quick.
Oh yeah, no problem. And it is a great quote by Koken, and unfortunately he's not doing too well health wise. I hope he has a good recovery here. Anyway, like I like the Seahawks at +3, not so much 2.5. I like getting the key number here, like getting 4 of the 6 key numbers with Seattle. A team coming off a bye, and they're very well coached. I feel like they should be able to have a better game plan than the Bengals, who are like they're coming off a game on the West Coast or close enough to the West Coast, and then they have to travel back and play an early game. Like I feel like that's the tough travel spot here for the Bengals. And also, I think the Seahawks should be able to run the ball better than the Bengals. Like Joe Mixon looks just like done. Whereas like the Seahawks have a good running game, and that's going to matter if the game is super windy, as we might expect it might be. So like if it's really windy, I think that really benefits Seattle. If it's not, I think this could go really either way. Joe Burrow looked healthy for once last week, and it's kind of like burned my pick against Arizona. I kind of assumed that he would still be injured, and I guess that was that's the old quote is like, what do you get when you assume? That's kind of like I paid the price there. Like, but then again, like I bet the Bengals, I bet against the Bengals against the Titans, and that ended up working out. So I guess the injury gods come giveth and taketh away, I guess. But I'm not like it's not like a huge conviction play. Again, like this is 2.5, I'd probably go the other way. But at 3, I like Seattle getting the 4 key numbers. And yeah, I just think that their coaching is really good. Like I agree that they're overrated, but Greg Olson coaching up Geno Smith is huge. Like Greg Olson is one of the best quarterbacking coaches in the NFL. He had Blake Bortles in that legendary Bortles season, and he had Josh Freeman in the Pro Bowl. Like this guy is amazing, and like people expected Geno to regress this year, and it's like he's not just because of Greg Olson probably. So just again, like kind of torn on this, but leaning Seattle. But it sounds like you're more convinced with your pick. So if anyone listening, I'd probably just go with Tom's selection here.
Famous last words. Hey, you know what? I always wondered, why didn't like Dentine or somebody try to give Pete Carroll like some like a marketing spot? He's always chewing that gum on the side. It's like they should get like Bubblicious to he should be a spokesperson for them. Just a quick aside there.
I feel like that's definitely been something that's like someone has to have taken advantage of that, but they haven't. I want to go back to something Don said. Bears are one of the worst ATS teams as a home dog since 2019. I looked that up very quickly thanks to Killer Sports, and I'll share this with you guys watching YouTube here. The Bears as home underdogs since 2019 are 7-13 against the spread at home.
Wow.
And like they haven't covered they covered against the Eagles. Remember that weird game where Jalen Hurts got hurt? Outside of that, they haven't done too well recently. 3 covers since week 4 of 2020. Does this concern you at all, or just you don't care?
I mean, it certainly doesn't make me feel better, but I mean, it's just I still really like the spot because my feelings about the Vikings being fraud. I have pretty strong convictions about that. And especially with the weather, I think maybe I'd feel a little bit differently if it wasn't going to be super windy, and maybe it won't be. Who knows what's going to happen on game day? But that's a good stat for sure. Yeah, that it definitely doesn't make me feel any better about it. And I will take that in consideration before Sunday comes around.
Chris says Seahawks are a fraud team. I can't believe the Sharps are backing them. That's another thing. The Sharps are on Seattle like pretty heavily.
Let's go, Chris. I like it.
Sharps are, we make fun of them for being on Denver. And they're 0-3 with Denver picks. Overall, the Sharps are 21-18 against the spread this year. But if you take away the Denver games, they're 21-15, which is like pretty good. So like they still know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing in Denver though. Like, and they're still backing Denver again. So we'll see what happens. Golden Glide says they just dropped to 2.5 because of Seattle bye. They dropped to 2.5 because of the sharp money on Seattle. And I had a question here. I can't find it right now. Do teams generally play better coming off a bye on the road than teams who are heading into a bye who are playing at home previous to the bye? Um, I need to think about that one. Let me think about how to plug that into Killer Sports. But that's kind
Cool.
of, it's kind of a mouthful. If you could simplify I could probably research that for you. Um, and everyone's saying like Seattle didn't do much against the Giants. I said this before, like that game, that Seattle Giants game was decided by 3 plays. The fumble that turned into a quick touchdown, the 51-yard Noah Fant play that came out of nowhere from Drew Lock, and the pick six at the inside the Seattle 5-yard line. If you take away those 3 plays, it was like a 3-3 game or 6-3 game.
Yeah.
So like I definitely agree Seattle's overrated. And I think there's gonna be good times to fade them, but I don't think this is the time because like we don't even know if Joe Burrow is 100% yet. Like he looked good against Arizona, but like what if he aggravates his calf or like has a setback? Like that could definitely happen. So like I would hold off on betting on the Bengals, like bet them later when you know Burrow's 100%. Just like don't do it now, especially if it's windy, because like the Bengals can't run the ball at all. So that's gonna hurt them against Seattle. Anyway, let's go to the next game. It is San Francisco at Cleveland. This line opened up 49ers -3. It's gone to 5.5 because of news about the quarterback. So Deshaun Watson sounds like he's not going to play in this game. Like he still has a chance. And I got excited because Dorian Thompson-Robinson was so bad in week 4, and I thought this would be an opportunity to fade him. But it sounds like Philip Walker is going to start instead for the Browns. Philip Walker, the former XFL MVP. So who do you like in this game?
Might hang me up by my toenails for this one, but I like the Browns here in this spot. And maybe it's just because of a quacky feeling, but I'd say if Watson starts, maybe 2 units, maybe 1 unit if Philip Walker starts. But Philip Walker he was pretty good to us last year. The times that we did take the Panthers. I like Cleveland coming off the bye, especially after. That was such an embarrassment. That was one of the most inept performances, that game against the Ravens, that maybe I've ever seen. It's just like I knew after half a quarter, like we had no hope in that game. It was ugly from the start. But the Browns have a really solid defense. The 49ers are mowing down everybody, and I kind of like, I think there's a chance this could maybe be a letdown spot after such a big statement win on prime time. Especially after, everyone has seen, like I said, just how bad the Browns were in that last game. But, if Walker, it's likely whether Watson's healthy or not, we're going to have a different quarterback than the Browns did. And, against the Ravens coming off a bye, their defense is solid. I think this could be, a field goal game, maybe. I think this could be a potential letdown spot here for San Francisco. But with that said, it does make me nervous. I mean, I said, the 49ers have been mowing down everybody, but I think this could be a good spot. But it's really going to depend. Once it's determined who will be the quarterback for the Browns, then I'll probably go in the tank and think it over a little more. But as things stand now, I like the Browns a little bit.
Yeah, I like the Browns too. We'll see about Watson. And you said that you would like the Browns if Watson will play. If you'd like them more if Watson will play over Walker. I actually feel the opposite, because
Really?
if Watson plays, this line's going to go back down to 3 where it was. When we anticipated that Watson would play, and like this line has moved to 5.5 with Walker. And I think that once it's announced that Walker is going to start, which I think is going to be the case, like this line could go to like 6.5, maybe, or maybe even 7, but probably like 6.5. And like then we get another key number here with Cleveland. I think that's it's a really good thing here. Like the Niners are coming off that big statement win, as you said, and I think there could be flat in this non-conference game. Like what do they have to prove here against the Browns? Like the last time we saw them, the Browns were just crapping all over themselves. But like this is like I love this angle, like the good teams playing their backup quarterbacks, and you might be like, wait, the Browns are so bad against the Ravens. Like, are they a good team? Like, they are first in defensive EPA. Like, they have the top defense of the NFL. So I think they should be able to keep the Niners offense in check. The reason why they got blown out is this graphic right here. Let me enlarge this for you. This is quarterback efficiency in 2023. It's every quarterback. As you can see here, like most of these quarterbacks are kind of like bunched in here. It's kind of hard to kind of determine where everyone is. Like all these names are all over the place. Obviously, the top, you have Purdy, Tagovailoa, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts is in there. I saw Mahomes. I kind of lost him, but Mahomes is in there too. Here he is. So, like, obviously, the better quarterbacks are at the top here. The worst quarterbacks, like Kenny Pickett, Aiden O'Connell, Jameis Winston, Anthony Richardson, I guess, as a passer, not as a rusher. Jordan Love, like these guys are on the left here. Now, I want to point you to this guy right here, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who's not even close to anyone. This would be like if you or I were a quarterback. Like, I imagine, I'll just say me because I'm older than you. I'm over 40. If Walter Charpinski was on this list, he'd be like down here with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Like that's how bad Dorian Thompson-Robinson was in that game. It's like a historically bad performance. Like think about how bad Aiden O'Connell was against the Chargers, and like look at the difference between them. Like not even close. Like Aiden O'Connell is like Dan Marino compared to Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Like that's how bad he was. And like Philip Walker is like not a good quarterback by any means, and like he's not even average, but like as a backup, he's fine. And like he's had some wins. Like he won against Atlanta like last year. He, like you said, he had some good wins for us. And I think that like if you think about it, like last year, he had some nice moments, he had some bad moments, sure, but like he was playing with the Panthers, who are just not a good team. Like now he's with the Browns, and I made this comparison on the site. Like let's think about how bad Jacoby Brissett was with the Dolphins.
I was just gonna say
in 2021, and then Brissett was really good with the Browns because the Browns have an elite offensive line, and they have Amari Cooper and David Njoku. Like they have like an actual like good NFL team, unlike the Panthers. So I feel like Phil Walker, for the first time in his pro career, is going to have a good supporting cast around him, and I think that he's going to do well. Like obviously, it's a bad matchup against the Niners, but I still think that like he should do well. And again, like the motivation favors the Browns. So we'll see what happens. Like if Walker starts and this line goes to close to 7, I'm definitely gonna be on the Browns. If it's Watson and it goes down to 3, suddenly like I feel like the Browns will be on the Niners radar just because of that. And like I think that's gonna lose. Cleveland's gonna lose their edge, the motivational edge. So as long as Watson's out, I'm gonna be on the Browns. And I might bet them heavily.
Well, let me ask you this: for purposes of the Super Contest, if we get it at like 5.5 or 6 or something on the card, and then Watson ends up being in after the lines come out, then how are you going to feel?
Okay, so yeah, so we get the Browns at +6 hypothetically if Watson were in, and like that's almost it's not even a free square because like it's not guaranteed to win. Like I feel like the Niners could still beat the Browns pretty convincingly. But then again, like the Browns have a good defense. So I think I'd be close to considering the Browns a +6 in the Super Contest. It's just like getting the 5 of the 6 key numbers I think it's pretty huge.
I think our best case scenario for our purposes of the Super Contest is if they announced, which probably is not going to happen at this juncture of the week, but you never know. If they announce like tomorrow that Walker was going to be in and the line moved to like 6.5 or 7, then I'd love the Browns even more, I think, for the Super Contest card. I'm reading some of these comments. Chris Williams, sorry, let's get to Kevin's first.
Yeah. Best defense the Niners faced yet. Who the Niners played? They played the Steelers in week 1. So like the Steelers are they're 9th in defensive EPA. So like the Steelers have a good defense, but the Browns are number 1, and like obviously number 1, like you're not going to face the defense nearly as good as that for the entire season. The Niners in who they played in week 2? They played the
did they play Giants in week 2 or week 3? The Thursday night game.
That was week 3, I believe. Week 2 was I'm in trouble remembering. We could just use Killer Sports here. So we go team equals 49ers and season equals type equals 2023. I think you have to actually type it out, unfortunately. There you go. So yeah, they played the Rams in week 2. Rams defense is 25th. Giants defense, I believe, is 30th. Cardinals defense, I think, is 27th. And then we had the Cowboys defense, which is 4th. So they played 2 top 10 defenses already. So it's like you can't really say, oh, they haven't played a good defense yet. Like the Niners are legit. But like this is definitely a flat spot for them. If I've ever seen one. Like like that was a big game against Dallas. They kind of established themselves as the best team in the conference, I think, and like a road game against a non-conference opponent. Like I just think that it's not like a spot they're going to be like geared up for,
Especially a non-conference opponent coming. I mean, to me, I guess I can't say anything because it seems like none of the logic has worked too well for me this year. But it's like non-conference opponent at home. Browns at home. I mean, coming off a blowout loss. Question mark who's going to start at quarterback. And everyone's down on them. I really like this spot for the Browns. I really like it a lot. I mean, that could change depending on what we hear as far as the QB news. But as things stand now, this is one of my favorite picks of the week. As things stand now. So
all right, we're on the same page. Chris, this the comment you were talking about? A Waltception, a preview of a recent video with me commenting playing inside of this video. Yeah.
Hey, I'll tell you what. I played 1 year of football, and I was a great long snapper. I'd probably be low on that QB list, but if there was like a graph for long snappers, put me on there, baby. I could. I was the only person on the team that could actually snap the ball back.
Yeah, I remember working out the football team, and the coach was the same as the swim team's coach, and I was the captain of the swim team. So like I was working out the football team, and like we had some like spring practices, and like I remember him saying like I used to be like kind of fast as a runner, like not anymore because I'm like old and fat, but like I used to be like kind of fast. And like he was like, Walt, I think you'd be a good receiver. And then like I like watched me try to catch some passes, and he's like, Walt, I think you'd be a good corner.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get to the next one. Saints at Texans. This line opened up. Saints -2.5. It's down to 1.5. So who do you like this game?
I actually like Houston here, maybe for like a unit. So I feel like I've been zigging and zagging with Houston at all, like each week, all the wrong directions. But for me, the Saints are hard to figure out. So like, who have the Saints played? So like the Titans, Panthers, Packers, Bucks, Patriots. All teams that in my book, maybe save for the Titans, are like mediocre. Or far worse. I mean, I think the Texans really showed some resiliency in last game. I mean, Stroud's having, maybe the best start to a career one could ask for with, for a young quarterback. The only concern that I have here is that, how are they going to respond after that emotional loss to the Falcons? I mean, that's got to be quite a letdown. They probably thought they had that game after going up 19-18. I just can't figure out the Saints. I don't think they've faced that good of competition. Not that Houston's that great of competition either, but I think I feel like there's a lot. Before the season, I was like, "Oh, the Saints are going to win that division easily," and they still might. But they haven't really been tested. I don't think that much. And also consider that the Saints have the Thursday night game in Week 7. So I like the Texans here, but maybe for just like a unit or so.
I think the Texans are overrated. Like, I feel like people remember those 2 wins they had against Jacksonville and Pittsburgh, and like, yeah, they were like on paper they were great wins for sure, but if you like delve deeper into them, it's like not that impressive. So like against Jacksonville, like that was an obvious flat spot for them, for the Jaguars, because they were coming off an emotional loss to the Chiefs. Then they had like the 2 game road trip to London. So I don't think they were just. I think they took the Texans for granted just because like they blew them out the last time they played them. So and remember, like the Jaguars made so many mistakes in that game.
Oh, yeah. And the Texans got so many broken plays and lucky special teams sort of thing. But yeah.
Yeah. And like CJ Stroud's been good, as Chris the Cop says. Like CJ Stroud's been really good. But then like week 4, they played against the Steelers, who were, they had that big win on Monday night. Then they had a big win across the country in Vegas. Then they had the flight diverted a couple of times. They got home late. Like then they were preparing for Baltimore. Like I feel like they also took the Texans for granted. So like the Texans have gotten 2 wins here where like they got their opponents at their absolute worst. And like Yeah, the Texans are competent enough now, like unlike last year, they're competent enough now to take advantage of these situations. But like if teams focused against them, like I don't think that they're going to do as well. And the Saints being a short favorite here, like I know they play on Thursday night, so like maybe they're looking ahead, but like they're not a big favorite, and I think that like that could incentivize them to play harder. Like if they were like 3.5 point favorites here, like I think they would definitely look ahead. But like only 1.5 on the road is basically a pick 'em. So I think the Saints are going to really focus here, and like what gets me here is that you have like CJ Stroud, who has like he's really played really one tough game defensively. And I'm not counting the Steelers because the Steelers weren't focused. He's like the one tough game he played was against Baltimore. And like, yeah, the Texans hung around for a while, but like Baltimore ended up winning like pretty convincingly. And that was like Stroud's worst game. Like, yeah, he got some garbage time at the end, but like he didn't do all that well. And like the Saints are third in defensive EPA. Like they're really impressive defensively. Their offense, on the other hand, not too good, but like they can really shut down an offense. Like we saw what they did last week to the Patriots. They held them to 0 points. So I think that Saints should be able to limit Houston pretty well, and I think they're going to win this game. I don't love this because like I don't trust the Saints offense at all. I hate Dennis Allen, their coach. I think he sucks, but I just think they're the better team. If you exclude the two games, the Jacksonville and Pittsburgh wins for Houston, like we're looking at Houston being 0-3, and yeah, they played a close game against Atlanta. You have to give them credit for that, but like the Saints, I think have been more impressive overall, even though they haven't played like a tough schedule. I just think that their defense should be able to dominate this game. I think.
Yeah, you might have swayed me there with that argument a little bit. I think. Yeah, I mean, I said the Texans for one unit. I think. Yeah, this might end up being one I stay away from, but we shall see. I mean, you definitely made some good points there too.
Kevin's saying, isn't this the third or fourth road game in a row for the Saints? The Saints played at home in Week 4 against the Buccaneers. Given how they lost, like maybe it felt like a road game, but they were at home. And that was a game where Derek Carr was playing hurt with that shoulder injury. And this goes into Chris the Cop's quote here. He says Derek Carr hasn't been impressive, especially with the good receiving core. So like I feel like Carr's performance this year has been misleading. Like if you look at quarterback efficiency, he's 24th in the NFL. But if you exclude that Week 4 game against the Buccaneers when he was hurt and he couldn't go downfield at all, he's actually 14th in quarterback efficiency. So like he's like right in the middle of the pack. I just think he's like Carr is just what he's always been, just an average quarterback. He's not great or anything. Like people for some reason expect he's gonna be great. Or like some people really hate him. And like both people are always wrong because he's just always average. So like I think that like this is a good spot for him because Houston's defense is pretty bad. And so I think he should do somewhat well here, especially now that he's healthy.
It's funny. I always feel I'm basing this off nothing but the eye test. But remember in 2016 when the Raiders were like having a good season and Derek Carr was having a good season, then he broke his leg at the end of the year.
Yep.
And I always felt like even if I'm just speaking for myself, it's like, oh, like one of these seasons he's going to get back to where he was because he was having a great year until he broke his leg. It was in December. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if it's and he just, at least for my money, like he never really has gotten back there, and so. Okay, Kel's calling the first interception there for Stroud.
I think that's going to happen this week. He's not going to never throw an interception. Like he's just his career is going to be 15 years, 0 interceptions is his career.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to happen eventually. I think this is like a good spot for it if you want to bet it. Actually,
maybe Saints defense, special teams, anytime touchdown.
Yeah. Or you could do that. You could you could probably bet the interception for Stroud.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yep. Okay, let's move on. We have Colts at Jaguars. This line opened up Jaguars minus 5.5. It dropped all the way to 4. And I think it's 4.5 now. On a double check. It is no, it's 4 now. So the Sharps brought it down to 4. Sharps on the Colts. So who do you like in this game?
So there's quite a few things to unpack here. So I won't get into details, but someone I interacted with at work a couple weeks ago after the Jags lost to Houston was like, because I live in Jacksonville. So, I get the inside scoop, if you will. Mm-hmm. And someone's like, the Jags suck. At least the tickets for the game will be cheap. It's like, bro, what are you talking about? And then they win back-to-back games in London here with obviously the game against the Bills. being more impressive. But like if you look at Jacksonville, yeah, their week 1 game against the Colts, that game was a lot closer than the score indicated. I mean, the Jags almost didn't cover that. I mean, they were 1 yard away from not covering that. And the Colts, like I underestimated them at the beginning of the year. They've definitely exceeded my expectations for sure. And I think maybe that's why at least last I checked, the public was all over the Colts in this game. The concerns I have about the Jags is that, they're coming back from London. They've been there for 2 weeks, so this might, they're probably used to the time zone over there. That's a long time to be over there. What is that? Like it's 5 hours ahead, I believe it is. And then the Jaguars have the Thursday night game. But the biggest kicker for me here, Walt, we talked about this last year. The Colts haven't won in Jacksonville since 2014. And remember when the year before they got Trevor Lawrence, the Jags won the first game against the Colts and then went 1-15. So the idea, and I think the Jaguars are underrated. Let's look at their 2 losses. Okay, I mean they were within a 1-score game, had a tough game against the Chiefs. They're the defending Super Bowl champions. Yeah, the Texans game that looked ugly. They always lose. They're 1-4 now in the Trevor Lawrence era against Houston. And they're, and even in that game, like we had discussed earlier, is a lot of fluky broken plays, special teams plays that really help the Texans there. And I think the Jags are probably, possibly looking ahead to heading over to London too. So I really like the Jags in the spot, especially knowing how much the Colts struggle in Jacksonville. I'm going to take them probably for about 2 units here.
Well, we have an important question here from Chris. You live in Jacksonville. Have you ever swam in those nice swimming pools at the stadium?
No, I'm banned from the stadium. I'm just kidding. No, I've actually only been to 1 game since I've been here. But I am going to try to get to a game this year. I haven't been to the swim. I imagine that the waiting list to get in there is probably really long. I remember the Arizona Diamondbacks had a swimming pool, and the wait list was like 6.5 seasons or something.
Oh
but
I thought that like the disease list of what you get in the pool would be longer than the waiting list. So like,
especially in Florida, right? No, I'm just
well, yeah, I don't know. So I don't know. Like, so I guess we disagree here. The Colts haven't won to Jacksonville in almost 10 years, but they don't need a win. Like they can just lose by 3. And I made this line Jacksonville -3. I think this would be a close game. It's like, I feel like the NFL schedule makers giveth and taketh away here for the Jaguars. Like the Jaguars were in a great spot last week against the Bills. Like they stayed overseas, and then the Bills came over, and I questioned it like with Jacob on the show last week, and Jacob told me it was a big advantage and the Jaguars are going to cover, and I was like, no, the Bills are an elite team and they're going to be fine, and I was completely wrong. The Bills were sleepwalking, as Rich Eisen said. Not my words. Rich Eisen said it. Like they were sleepwalking in that game. They looked terrible. Glad I didn't bet it. I had them for 0 units, but still, like they didn't look good at all. And I think that like suddenly the Jaguars went from completely underrated, as you said in your story. Now I think they're a little overrated now because everyone saw them win twice in the morning. And now they have to come home. This is a really tough spot. Like they have to come home. They have to play a team they already beat this year. And then in 4 days after this, they have to play another game. Like I think that this is just way too tough a spot. And the Colts are a good team. Like it's someone said in the comments that they think the Colts are better with Gardner Minshew. And I think that's definitely the case like right now. Like I think eventually, Richardson's going to be great, assuming he can stay healthy. But Minshew went into Baltimore and won. Like that was really impressive. And he's one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL. He has a good receiving core, good offensive line, Jonathan Taylor back. Like this, like think about like that Colts team in week 1. You had Richardson playing his first game and then getting hurt. And now you have like a seasoned quarterback with Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, as opposed to Deion Jackson, who's like I think he was like the least efficient runner in the NFL this year, like based on metrics. If you look at it, like he's the worst runner in that one game. Now they have Taylor and Zach Moss, who's played well. And the Colts defense is pretty good too. So I think that this is going to be a tight game. I had this as a 3-point spread. And we're getting good line value here with the Colts. I really like the Colts here.
Yeah, sorry, I'm enjoying the comments over here. Chris Williams, you got some good comment. This is Titans versus Giants is the real debate. Yeah,
Yeah, we it's always a good time when
Yeah,
when Chris is on here.
love it, love it. Keep it coming.
You'll have to
No,
be you'll
I
have to
think
be a
you
guest
really
on
make some
here one day.
good points here. I just I before the season started, I bet two teams to win the Super Bowl, one being the Lions and the other team being the Jaguars. Um, and I guess for me, and maybe I have a little bit of tunnel vision here with this pick, Walt, and I think you make a strong argument here. Um, but I'm just kind of waiting for the Jags to really break out and become maybe not elite, but very much exceeding the expectations of the rest of the public, maybe. So, but you definitely make a compelling argument there. So, I might have to rethink that one a little bit. But
Oh, and we had some question about where the money's on. Both the public and the sharps are betting the Colts. It's like sometimes that happens. Like, so usually
hmm,
you see like public on one side, sharps on the other side. Sometimes the sharps don't bet a side. Sometimes it's even. But like this is a rare case where everyone is betting the Colts, and there's like no one. I feel like it's just the contrarians. As I remember when I first started the show, I was my first co-host ever was Matt Vi, is a friend of mine I used to do the super contest with originally. I haven't heard from him in a while, but anyway, he used to have a term for this. He used to have like there are the sharps, obviously the best betters, and then there are the shraps, who are people who think they're the best betters and they just bet contrarian, and they are generally just like 50-50 people who just think they're smarter than they are.
what are you
So
trying to
like
say here, Walt? I'm just
so like
kidding. I sound like I'm a seems like it this season at least, but I'm only kidding.
yeah, so I think that like that's I don't even know, like no one is but like no one is betting the Jaguars like right now. Like it's
Mhm.
like I think it's like 98% of the money is on the Colts here. Let me see. Um so let me actually see this. So like
That's
yeah,
the other thing that turns me off about this one because I mean maybe it's a Shrap mentality, but I like that
Eh,
term.
yes, yeah. So like, yeah, 98% of the money is is on the Colts. So like,
Mm.
no one is taking the Jaguars. Like, not even the Straps here. Like, it's like feels like everyone is betting the Colts. So I don't know. It's a weird phenomenon to see something like this. I think that eventually the number, if this keeps dropping, eventually you might see some sharp money come in on the Jaguars. But right now, it is public
Hmm.
and sharp on the Colts. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's Chris Williams says no one is impressed by the Jags win against Buffalo. Apparently, it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, and I thought they would be. I really thought that like the Jaguars would be overrated here from that win, but apparently not. Um, Cal says week one Colts were up 10 in the fourth, weren't they? I know they were up in the fourth quarter, right? Like, and then they went for it on like fourth down a bunch of times and they didn't get it.
Yeah,
Um,
they definitely had the lead because I remember thinking because we had the Jags -5, I think it was. And I remember thinking I kind of wrote it off in a way. I was like, I don't think this is going to happen. And then all of a sudden, and then
yeah,
they almost blew it at the end. The Colts were on the one, uh, trying to go in for a touchdown. They would have lost by 3. So that game was a lot closer. Because I think there's some people that just look at the score like, oh, like the Jags beat them easily last time. It's like that game. I mean, yeah, I think it was Kel that said that the Colts were leading for a decent bit in that game and could have easily covered, literally a
yeah,
yard away from covering that game. So
yeah. Yeah, that's definitely true. Carter Soon asking, do you have other favorite bloggers or tweeters that talk about NFL bets like this? I always love these. I would check out like the Odd Shopper channel on YouTube. I'm actually be doing a show with them on I think Thursdays at noon. With Aton Shander, who's like he does a really good job with them. He posts videos about like every sport too. So yeah, he does NFL. So I would check that out. And we also have a super contest entry. So like we're gonna actually like be debating our super contest card on Thursday at noon. So I think it's starting this week. Maybe next week, but I'm pretty sure it's this week. So check that out. Yeah, they do a good job over there. Like they're owned by Stochastic, which is Awesemo. And like Awesemo is the number one DFS player in the world. So like they have a lot of good content creators over there. So a lot of respect for them. Anyway, next game. This is the last of the early games. We have Panthers at the Dolphins. This line open up Dolphins -14. It's down to 13.5. I think you referenced this briefly earlier when you were talking about that 70-20 game. So I assume you're going to be on the Panthers. Am I right?
Actually, not. I'm probably not gonna. I'm
Really?
probably not gonna touch this game. I wrote down here Dolphins for 1 unit, but that's in very light pencil, if you will. I mean, not literally. It's on my computer, but I said like I'm probably not going to touch this one. But I do like Miami. Again, they're going to be living off that 70-20 reputation probably the rest of the season, unless they get blown out really bad or something. The thing about the Panthers, like here's the thing about it, because we've taken them. They haven't covered a game yet. They pushed in week 2 against the Saints. They haven't covered a game yet, and even the games that they hung around, they ended up not covering. I just have a hard time, especially I don't know. I just have a hard time seeing them do it here. Like my gut reaction was to take the Panthers here, actually, Walt. But I think it's because of that. Even the games where I was like, okay, the Panthers are going to get this. I mean, actually, it was a miracle that we pushed on them in week 2 with the +3. But like I said, there's so many that Seahawks game was so maddening to me. I really thought for sure that they were going to do it. My inclination was the Panthers. I have, like I said, I penciled in Dolphins for 1 unit. I'm probably not even going to touch it. I just think I need to. I'm just going to have a hard time backing the Panthers, who haven't covered at all yet. And again, they've kept it close. Just couldn't. They haven't proven that they can finish. And I just don't think I want to start here against Miami, because we've seen what they're capable of. So I'm probably not going to touch this, but I say Miami. I'll change it to Miami for 0 units.
Yeah. I thought you were going to be on the Panthers because you referenced, the Dolphins living off that 70-20 game.
I thought I was going to be on them too, and I tricked myself. So,
but they almost haven't covered since that game either. They covered against the Giants, but it was pretty touch and go for a while. It was a 7-point game at halftime, I think, and it looked like the Giants were going to cover. I actually got a text from my friend Alex, so we were debating the game, and he texted me. He's like, yeah, it looks like you were right about the Giants pick. And then a couple hours later, he texted me back. He's like, whoops, that was a little too early.
So, yeah, that's the kiss of death.
Yeah,
jeez,
right, exactly.
I'll tell you, I've been on the show 4 or 5 times. The comments tonight, this is the best I've seen. Y'all are killing it with the comments. This is great. You know what that reminds me of, Walt? Remember that Dolphins Saints game in 2009, and your dad texted you early, and he's like, I remember, because I had a big bet on the Dolphins too. I was like, I can't believe you called this one, and I was so happy, and then they choked it away. So sorry, sorry to dig up old bones, but it hurts me too, Oh
my God, I remember that game. Real quick, I want to pull it up. Yeah, so the spread was 6, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that was the year that the Saints won the Super Bowl, for reference.
Yep. Yeah, I had the Dolphins +6. Actually, I think it might have gotten 6.5. I think. The Dolphins were at home, and all the public money was on the Saints. I love the Dolphins. I thought it was a great spot. The Dolphins were up 17-3 or something like that. And I my dad bet. I convinced him to bet the Dolphins. And we had an argument leading up to the game. He's like I can't bet this team. I like the Saints. So I was like, no, everything says Dolphins. And so he ended up betting the Dolphins. And then it was 17-3. He texted me. He's like, great call with the Dolphins. And I'm like, oh no, that's it. It's over. And the Saints ended up winning 46-34. The Dolphins actually had a chance at the end to cover, and it was like, that's so brutal. That's one of the worst beats of all time, I think. But
same. Anyway. That was one of my worst. Geez, that was that was. You don't want to know how long ago that was? I didn't even have an iPhone yet. I didn't have a smartphone yet. That was Whew.
Well, I didn't get a smartphone until 2014. So it was pretty recent for me. I'm still learning how to use them. Anyway, actually, I only got a smartphone because my other phone broke. I had a Juke. And I just loved it. It was so small, and it was so convenient. I was like, why would I get a smartphone? And then now I can't even imagine not having a smartphone now.
Yeah, I know, right?
Anyway, as far as this game goes, I like the Panthers. I want to like the Panthers. So I looked this up. Teams that don't have a win in week 6 all time are actually, let me pull this up. Let me get the exact number. They are 43-28 against the spread. Since 2010, they're 15-10 against the spread. So like, 60% cover rate. It's pretty good. And then like, just goes to show that like you can bet these teams that are terrible because they, there's like a tax going the other way. Like, I actually think the correct line on this game would be like Dolphins minus 11-ish, because like Miami's defense is really bad. Like they're 22nd. It's not like the Dolphins are a juggernaut team. Like their offense is amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, they're first overall. But their defense is only 22nd, so like close to the bottom 10. And so like asking them to cover big spreads like this is like it's pretty tough, because like they barely got there against the Giants. Like Daniel Jones got hurt. I feel like the Giants had a chance to cover. And I think the Panthers are going to have a chance to cover here. Like, even if it's like via Bryce Young, like garbage touchdowns in the fourth quarter, like, he's going to get them because Miami's defense is so soft. So I think the Panthers are going to have a chance to get there. What bothers me here, though, is like the Panthers defense has been in shambles ever since that Seattle game that you mentioned. The reason why the Panthers fell apart is because they lost two of their top defensive players in that game. And like one came back, but like the other one, Xavier, was like their top safety, is still out. Shaq Thompson, their linebacker, he's still out. Like, those are two big pieces that they're missing. So their defense hasn't been the same without them. And like their defense is 26th in EPA. And like asking a bottom 10 defense to defend the number one offense in the NFL, like it feels like the Dolphins should score on like every possession. And like, yeah, Bryce Young should get some late scores, but like it may not matter. He may like trim the margin to like 17 and not 14. So I'm not going to bet this game. I am on the Panthers though for office pool purposes, but this line's too high. Like I said, there's a tax on the Dolphins, but I'm like you. I just can't bring myself to take the Panthers. So bet the Panthers at least.
For sure. Chris, Mole Man says Sharps and Sharp. Okay, sorry, getting Chris the Mole Man. I think Mole Man, that's a reference to a Hans Moleman from The Simpsons, maybe. But I think Mole Man would be a good Mega Man boss too. They had Armored Armadillo in Mega Man X, and then Mole Man will be the second coming, maybe, of the of those types of bosses. Sorry, I just got a lot. I speed run video games. I can beat Mega Man X in under an hour, so I enjoyed the banter there, Chris.
You do stuff on TikTok, right?
Yeah. I guess it's a good segue into my plug. If you're on TikTok, I'm Quacky T, or Quacky Takes with Tommy is my at handle. But I'm working on a Super Mario World on Super Nintendo speedrun. I can beat Super Mario World in 11 minutes and 50 seconds is my new best time. The world record is 9:45.
Nice.
And I will get the world record one day. I am determined. It maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day.
Nice.
So yeah, if you enjoy the what we call a lot of my viewers love the quacky ramblings, as I'll be rambling the whole time, and you get to watch some decent gameplay. So if you're on TikTok, give me a shout. Come watch a stream. So.
Yeah, Mega Man X was a classic. I love those games. Mega Man 2 will always be my favorite. I must have played that every like so many times, more than any other video game. And I think like I would always like try to like randomize the order in which I beat the bosses. Like, obviously there's like a set order where it's like easiest. Like you go Airman, then Flashman, then Quickman, etc. But like I always try, like I always like the correct order. Like Heatman is always last. Like I try to like reverse it. Like I try to beat Heatman first, then Bubble Man. Like I've played that way too many times.
I have a great story about Mega Man 2. It's also one of my favorites. Mega Man 2 and 3 are some of my favorites, and of course Mega Man X. So I was like 7 years old when I was first playing Mega Man X, and every I could not beat the final boss in Mega Man 2. Again, I'm 7. And I never used the Top Man. I never tried Top Man because I was like, we never used this weapon for anything else. So I was like, what could it be? Well, you would think that. I mean, I guess my brain was still developing. I guess it still is, but I didn't think so. My mom called the Nintendo hotline. It's like $2.99 a month, and they were like, yeah, use Top Man. So like, props to my mom helping me beat Mega Man 2 when I was 7 years old.
Nice. There you go.
Metroid
That's awesome.
was another good one. Sorry, I don't mean to get off track.
Yeah, Super Metro, I could never get past the beginning part. Like I don't know what's wrong with me. Like there's like a tunnel you have to go into, and I just like, maybe my emulator is broken, but like I couldn't like crouch down and like get through it. So I just gave up on it. But anyway, Yeah, Airman, you got to beat Metal Man for no. It's Airman. I still remember it's Airman, Flashman, Quickman, Metal Man, Woodman, Crash Man, Bubble Man, Heat Man. That's the order.
I think that's right. Cal, I'm over here laughing at Cal's comment. Here's a quacky take. Let's talk football.
Okay.
Fair enough.
All right, we'll get to this at the end.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, late games. And once again, please hit like, subscribe, comment below. All that stuff would mean a lot. Subscribe, etc. All right, Patriots Raiders. Raiders open up -3. I thought this line would move based on what happened Monday night. Still 3. So like you have to be insane to bet the Patriots, right? They're the worst team in the NFL. So who do you like here?
Well, I guess that makes me insane. Okay, look, I know I'm gonna they're gonna be proverbially pelting vegetables at me in the comments here. Come on, the Raiders are favored. Give me a freaking break. Now I know because we said, I mean, if the Patriots can't do it after the worst Belichick loss, maybe and then then they get the second worst Belichick loss. Maybe the third time's a charm here for them. But let's not forget how tough the Patriots schedule has been. They hung tough against in losses to the Eagles, to the Dolphins, and they lost a couple games to some really strong defenses. Also, I mean, and this is, this could go either way. Who has the advantage? Does Jimmy G know the defense better, or does Belichick know Jimmy G better? And I know there's more variables that come into play other than that, but I don't think the Raiders should be favored over anybody. And I also think this isn't a huge factor, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots are out for a little blood after a little revenge after that lateral interception walk-off last year against the Raiders. That was really embarrassing, and now they've been embarrassed twice. I like the Patriots a good bit. Go ahead and call the funny farm and have me committed if you want to, but I'm going to go. And if they let me down this time, I might be done with them for the season. But I really, really like the Patriots here in this spot. I mean, I think we're going to look back and be like, I can't believe the Raiders were favored, but who knows? But that's what I feel in this one. What do you think, Walt?
I think we had a blueprint for this game, and it was last week. It was the Jets at the Broncos, and I initially was on the Jets on the show last week. I was on the Jets, and I foolishly switched to Denver. I even put them in the Super Contest over the Steelers. Right? What'd you say?
That's partially my fault.
No. I decided ahead of time, so It was definitely not your fault. So the reason why I compare that to this one is you had the Jets who looked very underwhelming heading into that game. Obviously they hung tight with the Chiefs with the week before they lost to the Patriots. So everyone's down on the Jets, and they're playing an AFC West team with one win. This should actually say Raiders 2-3, but yeah. So they're playing an AFC West team that had a losing record, an underwhelming offense, underwhelming defense, and what happened? The Jets ended up beating the Broncos on the road. And I think that the Patriots played, I think, like two buzzsaw defenses. Like the Cowboys and Saints are 4th and 3rd in defensive EPA. Like the Patriots have had such a tough schedule, kind of like the Jets. Like the Jets had the Bills and the Jets had the Cowboys and just had the Chiefs. Whereas the Patriots had the Eagles, they had the Cowboys, they had the Saints defense. They had the Dolphins. Like they played some very tough teams. Like if they had an easier schedule, they could have a better record than 1-4. And in fact, they won at the Jets. And now people think the Jets are a competent team because they beat Denver and almost beat Kansas City. The Patriots won there, so like why can't they beat the Raiders? If they could win at the Jets, they could certainly win at the Raiders. And so like I expect Mac Jones to bounce back. Like he nearly beat the Eagles in week 1. The Eagles have the 20th ranked defensive EPA. The Dolphins, that was almost went to overtime. The Dolphins are 22nd. So like those two teams are even above the Raiders. The Raiders defense is 27th. So I think that Mac Jones should really bounce back. Like I think people are expecting like the Patriots to not score again, which I think is like a huge mistake because this is a big step down to competition, kind of like Denver was last week for the Jets. Like the Jets had played the Chiefs, who were top 10 in defensive EPA. The Patriots are 11th. The Cowboys are 4th, and the Bills were top 10 as well. And like that was the first easy matchup for the Jets, and like the Jets ended up scoring like pretty easily, especially in the second half. And I think the Patriots should have the same thing here. I think it's pretty telling that the Raiders haven't moved off 3, despite what happened Monday night. The Raiders beat the Packers, whereas like I feel like at the end the sharps were on the Packers, and I thought given that how bad the Patriots look, like this line to move to 3.5, and it hasn't. And there's sharp money coming on the Patriots. And I just think that like Bill Belichick has to rebound at some point. And like, yeah, he didn't do that last week, but again, like that was such a tough defensive matchup for Mac Jones. Like this is just so much easier for him. Like the Raiders have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. So I think the Patriots are gonna like really surprise people. I think they're gonna bounce back. And like it's insane how like if you look at like almost every power ranking out there, the Patriots are dead last. And I'm like, how do you rank them below the Panthers, who haven't covered the spread this year? They like forget winning, like they haven't even covered the spread, and like people are ranking them below the Panthers. I've even heard like I was listening to this podcast, NFL podcast. I don't know what it was, but like they were saying that like, oh, do you think the Patriots would beat the Panthers if they played them at home? And the other guy was like, I don't know. The Panthers would probably win. I'm like what am I listening to? Like, like this is ridiculous. Like the Patriots are like they've looked terrible the past 2 weeks, but like before that, they look like a competent team. So I think they're going to get back to it in a much easier matchup here. I think the Patriots went outright.
Yeah, I agree. Let's
Nice.
see.
Chris says at least we know the answer was a Brady or Belichick question. I mean, I think it was both. Like Belichick's the greatest coach of our generation, just like, but he doesn't have much talent now. And I think that like what he's done the past couple of years with a bad roster, like almost getting them to the playoffs last year, I think that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, Chris, and just to kind of piggyback on that, I mean, I see where you're coming from with that, but I mean, look at the. I mean some of the receivers that those teams with Brady had so much more talent, like Walt said. So yeah, obviously Brady had something to do with obviously, but I mean, no, I mean these teams are a far cry from maybe almost any of the, I mean, just pulling this out of thin air than any of the teams that Brady was on. I would probably say, but yeah, it certainly hasn't looked good lately. That's for damn sure. But
yeah, people are saying Belichick's a bad GM. Like I feel like he does well in some areas. Like he tends to get like really good defensive backs. But like his receivers are always terrible. Like he's never drafted a good receiver. Or maybe once in a while. Like I don't know. Like every receiver he gets is a bust. Like no matter where he drafts him, it's insane. Like I feel like he needs to outsource his receiver scouting. That's someone, maybe the Steelers, who like always draft good receivers. Strange how that works. Anyway, we have Lions at the Buccaneers next. This line opened up 3. It went up to 3.5, and it's back down to 3. Sharp money on Tampa Bay. So who do you like here?
I like the Lions, but I have it for 0 units. This is probably one that I'm not going to touch. The Lions, this is another one where, like I said earlier, I put the Lions and the Jags to win the Super Bowl before the season started. So I don't want, I don't want to make a homer play here. Tampa has an important game coming up against the Falcons the following week, a tough division game. Lions have some injuries with St. Brown is hampered right now, and Tampa's coming off a bye. I just don't. I mean, the Lions to me are the far superior team, but this also seems like it might be a bad spot for them potentially. I don't know. Just like on the road, I know it doesn't matter as much as it used to, but something about this kind of like while I think the Lions are the far superior team, I just feel like this could be a bad spot. I really don't have much analysis other than that, so I'm probably going to stay away from this one, but I would take the Lions if I had to.
I just like you said, it's a bad spot. I think it's a bad matchup for the Lions, like on both sides of the ball. If I'm on Ross St. Brown's out, because the Buccaneers have a pass funnel defense. Like they're really good against the run, and like they're weaker against the pass, so you have to throw into them. And if the Lions don't have St. Brown, like you're gonna have to count on Josh Reynolds and Khalif Raymond and Jamison Williams beating Tampa's secondary, which is like, they could do it home. The Lions play a lot better at home offensively, like but on the road, they're not nearly as good. Not going to be like cold or I don't know. Maybe it's windy, but like it's not going to be cold or anything. So it's not like bad conditions, but it's still like the Lions historically had just not been as good on the road. Same thing with Jared Goff. And so like the fact that they have to throw into Tampa is an issue. Like last week without St. Brown, it didn't matter that he wasn't there because they just ran into Carolina's bad run defense. But Tampa has a good run defense. So that game plan is not going to work. And then on the other side of the ball, you have Detroit has a run as a pass funnel defense as well, because like they're really good against the run. And Tampa doesn't run that well. Like they pass. Like that's the thing. That's their thing. Is like throwing to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And Detroit has some major injuries in the secondary. They just lost Emmanuel Mosley. They're down. I think Brian Branch is hurt too. I don't know if he's going to play this game, but he's injured. They're missing another guy. I think that like this is just a tough matchup for them. And I couldn't get to 3. Like my calculated number was Detroit -2. The EPA numbers say it's Detroit -2. So I just couldn't get to 3. So I think this line is like a touch too high. So I'm going to take Tampa +3. I looked at a lot better at 3.5. 3 is kind of like this is 2.5. I think I might maybe side with Detroit, but like at 3, like getting 4 key numbers with Tampa with a good matchup here. I just think this is like could be a spot where Detroit just loses a game. Like, you're not going to win every game in the NFL, and I think that like this is just a rough matchup for them.
The other thing about this too, like, because I think the line is, because I think the Lions are a lot better than, or a lot better than 3 points, or more than 3 points better than the Bucks. But we thought that about. I thought. Well, I don't want to speak for you, Walt, but I thought we liked the Falcons in at +3, because I thought that when the Falcons were +3 against the Lions, we liked the Falcons because I was like, this line looks kind of fishy. And then Detroit ended up winning by 14. So I kind of feel. I think that's why this is probably going to be one that I stay away from. I think the Lions are the superior team. The spot, I like what you said about the matchup. This is going to be 0 units for me, I'm pretty sure.
So the Atlanta game was frustrating because I remember like one of the reasons why I liked Atlanta was because I thought St. Brown would be like either out or just like really banged up because he had what was it, like turf toe or something, and like turf toe is normally like a 4-week injury. So I didn't think he'd be effective at all, and like he looked like he was a guy who never got hurt. It was amazing. I don't know what happened there. So like that's the thing that tripped me up with Atlanta there. And like if St. Brown wasn't healthy at all, like the Falcons would have had a chance to cover that spread because they held Detroit to 20 points, even with St. Brown being healthy. So I just think that like I wouldn't put too much stock into that one game. I think this one's definitely different though. I have Detroit winning by like 1 point. So 3 is a tough number to get to, like I said.
Right.
Yeah. Mo Man forever saying waiting for the injury report to come out. It's always super important, especially with these teams who are like really banged up now. Next game is Cardinals at the Rams. This I have it here as Rams -6.5. It's up to 7. It moved to 7 a couple hours ago. This line moved open up at -6, so it's been moving up. The sharps are on the Rams actually. So who do you like in this game?
Well, I hope it keeps moving its way to 7 by the time the lines for the card come out. I like the Cardinals a pretty good bit here. I actually think, like maybe a month from now, we're going to look back. There's a chance we could look back at this Cardinals team and they'll be the Falcons of last year who like covered like so many games. I know they haven't covered their last 2, but don't let the size of the score of the last 2 Cardinals games fool you. This team has been exceeding expectations all year by a lot. I mean, the expectations, at least for me, for this Cardinals team coming in the season were extremely low. They didn't cover the last 2 games, but they were within 5 points of the 49ers after 3 quarters. They beat Dallas. I think Cooper Kupp is back. I think having Cooper Kupp back, rather, is what I meant to say. And having one game, under his belt, maybe he and Stafford shook some of the rust off. But I mean, come on, like, what have the Rams really done, like, to get excited about? I mean, like Stafford, I mean, he's dealing with some injuries too. I think this is a division game that stays close. The Rams, they blew out Seattle in the first game. That game against the 49ers, they did cover, but it was I don't think it was a backdoor. It wasn't as close as indicated. I just don't think the Rams have done enough, to really they haven't done enough to like really get me excited about backing them. This Cardinals team continues to exceed expectations. Like I said, they didn't cover the last 2, but they kept it close for a while against the 49ers. They're a lot better than people think. I have them penned in here for 3 units. What do you think, Walt?
Well, I mean, they kept it close against the Bengals too. Like it was, they were up 14-10 and they had the ball. And then Josh Dobbs threw that pick 6. Like he's been so good this year, just taking care of the ball. It was just uncharacteristic.
Really
so it's kind of weird to see that. So I referenced earlier that there was a kind of a game where, it was sort of like that Jacksonville versus Houston vibe, whereas like Jacksonville had like their Super Bowl against Houston or against Kansas City, and then they were big favorites against Houston, divisional matchup. And they just were super flat and end up losing the game. I think this is the same spot for the Rams. The Rams just played the Eagles, and it was very close for a while. It was what, like a 3 or 4 point game for a while. And like in the fourth quarter, it just fell apart for the Rams. So like that, the end result, it was 23-14, ended up looking worse than it was. And the Rams like fought them like super hard, and give them credit, like they were really good for a while. But like they just like they played so hard in that game, and like now they're big favorites. Like it's a huge change for them, like dynamically, like to be a big underdog and to play so hard. Now they're big favorites over a team with one win that just lost by 2 touchdowns to the Bengals, who had one win beforehand. Like, I know this is a divisional game, but so was Jacksonville, Houston. Like, I just don't see where the incentive is for the Rams to show up here. Like, the Rams probably think they could just come in and beat the Cardinals without trying like too hard. Like that, I feel like that's going to be the mentality that the Rams are going to have. And this line's just way too high. I made this line personally. I have this line at Rams -3. If you don't like that, the EPA says this line should be Rams -4. We get all these key numbers now with 7. That's like really appealing. And yeah, you're right. I mean, like look at all of Arizona's games this year. They've been really impressive. Like week 1, they almost beat Washington. Week 2, they're up 20-0 against the Giants. And yeah, the Giants came back, but still, they covered the spread, and they were in the first half, like they looked amazing. Week 3, they beat Dallas. Like, granted, Dallas is shorthanded, but still, they beat Dallas. Week 4 against San Francisco, you said it was a 5-point game, and they would have covered if Zach Ertz didn't drop that touchdown. And then last week, as I said before, like they were up against the Bengals, and Dobbs threw the game away. This Cardinals team is better than people think, and the Rams have a bad defense, so I feel like the Cardinals should move the ball well against them. I don't know why the sharps are betting the Rams. Maybe I'm missing something, but I definitely like the Cardinals a lot.
No, I really do too. I think that there's a good chance they're probably going to make our card too.
Yeah. Cal asking, Walt, would you take KC or Rams on Survivor? I would take the Chiefs, definitely.
I would too.
Yeah. I personally have the Dolphins. I'll talk about that later, but I have the Dolphins still available. But yeah, I definitely take the Chiefs for sure. All right. Next game, we have Eagles at the Jets. So we just discussed the Eagles. This line also has been moving toward the favorite from 6 to 7, just like the last game. But this is public money on the Eagles, not sharp money. So who do you like in this game?
I like the Jets a little bit, maybe for 1 unit or so, mostly because of the spot here. I thought, last year, geez, I'm losing it. Last week, we really liked, we really liked the Rams against the Eagles. And I know that I spoke up and said that I thought that, that maybe this was going to be, that last week was going to be the spot where the Eagles, a bad spot for the Eagles, and they were finally going to falter. Because as I've been saying all year, like obviously they're 5-0. I have high expectations for the Eagles this season. I had high expectations for them before the season started, but something is missing. Something is definitely missing. They're not, to me at least, on this Eagles team. So it didn't happen last week. I think maybe this could be a spot where maybe this might be the spot where they do finally falter. And I mean, like, look at this Jets team the last 3 weeks. They played, I mean, they beat Denver. Not that that's that impressive, but they played 2 close, as at least as the score indicated, 2 close games, against the Patriots and then Kansas City. So they're definitely playing better. It's hard for me to back Zach Wilson still, but he definitely had some mistakes, especially that letting the clock run out in last week's game was pretty rough. But it's funny. It's like I was looking at like the quarterback matchup. Like Hurts hasn't, he has 6 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Like that's not like the Jalen Hurts like we're used to. It's like Wilson has 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Obviously, those are worse numbers, but it's like, like if you were looking at the stats like without the names, you'd be like, wow, like you probably wouldn't think that those were Hurts stats. It's not even. I don't know. Like the Eagles are just missing something this season. I still think they're probably going to win 12, 13 games, sort of thing, barring some sort of catastrophic injury. But I'm waiting for them to to have like, this could be like a kind of a pitfall game. They also might be looking ahead to play Miami. I like that we're getting, especially if we can get 7 here. But again, it's very hard for me to back Zach Wilson. He has looked better in the last couple weeks, but I like I was saying last week, I need a little bit more for all the bad play that he's had. I need more before I can really be convinced. So I think I like the Jets here, especially with maybe the Eagles looking ahead to that Miami game next week, maybe for a unit or so.
So it seems like a lot of people are asking like how the Jets are going to score. I think something to note here is that the Eagles don't have a good defense this year. It's like weird to say because they have a really good pass rush and their run defense is elite, but they can't cover at all. Like their secondaries in shambles. Like Darius Slay is playing very poorly. James Bradbury is playing out of position because Avonte Maddox is injured. Like they have a lot of holes in their secondary right now, and I think that as bad as Zach Wilson has been, like this is like shockingly like one of his easier matchups of the year. Like I never thought I'd say that heading into the season. Like, when I saw Eagles at Jets on the schedule, I was like, oh man, I had the same questions. Like how's Zach Wilson's gonna score in this game? Like, well, assuming that at least after Aaron Rodgers got hurt, I looked at the schedule. I was like, wait, how's that gonna happen? Like how are the Jets gonna score? But the Eagles are 20th in defensive EPA. Like that's crazy. Like last year they were top 5 all year. Now they're 20th. Like something's definitely wrong here. I think they really missed Jonathan Gannon. Like he got a lot of flack in the Super Bowl, but like, yeah, the defenders were slipping like on every play. Like wasn't his fault. And now like their old cornerbacks are a year older. They're not playing nearly as well. Their pass rush is really good, sure. And like we had a question here, like how are the Jets going to block the pass rush? But like we had the same question a couple weeks ago with the Redskins. Remember, Sam Howell took 9 sacks against the Bills, and then they're going to play the Eagles. Like, oh, how are the Redskins going to block the Eagles? Well, they didn't need to because he got the ball out quickly and he put up 31 points on the board, and the Redskins almost beat the Eagles. I think like the Jets could do the same thing, and then like defensively, the Jets are great. Like look at how they played at home, like especially at home. Like look at how they played at home this year. Like they really frustrated Josh Allen. They beat the Bills. Then they played the Patriots. They lost that game, but they held the Patriots to 15 points. It was 15-10, so they covered the spread if that's the same. And then Mahomes had his worst game of the year against them. Like they really frustrated him. Like I feel like they could do the same thing to Jalen Hurts, who has thrown interceptions this year. Like you said, 4 interceptions, 6 touchdowns. Like I think Hurts could have his worst game of the year here. And like it's kind of being telegraphed too. Like he hasn't played all that well for the most part, like compared to last year at least. And I think like we could have an Eagles implosion here. Like they're 5-0. This is a non-conference game on the road. They play the Dolphins next week. It's a big matchup on Sunday Night Football. I don't see why the Eagles would suddenly just be focused here. Like especially like they're coming off a game on the West Coast and they're flying back to the East Coast, and like there's a lot of travel here. Like I just don't think the Eagles are gonna be focused. And like the Sharps are betting the Jets, which is a nice bonus here. And I like the Jets for sure. Like especially now that it's 7, like that we get all the key numbers. Like definitely sign me up for that.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that'll make our card. You're talking me into it even more now. So
Chris has a good point here. Philly also has a 2-game lead in the division. With Dallas losing, like suddenly like there's not that much urgency to keep winning. Like you want the bye for sure. But the Eagles and Niners play each other later in the year. Like that, I feel like the bye is going to be decided in that game. So so here's the one concern. Like Kevin says, then the Jets lose one of their best offensive linemen. Yeah, Elijah Vera Tucker is out for the year. It's a big loss for sure. Like he's versatile. He can play almost every position on the line. But again, like it's like the Eagles can't cover. And I think that if Zach Wilson gets the ball out quickly to his receivers, like he has Garrett Wilson and some other players, like, and the Eagles are bad against tight ends too. So I think there are going to be opportunities here, just like Sam Howell had against the Eagles. And like just keep in mind, this Eagles defense is not dominant anymore. It's just like maybe they'll get there by the end of the year. Like maybe they'll turn things around, but they're 20th in the NFL. Like they're below average. So I'm not concerned here for Zach Wilson, especially at home. Like he tends to play better at home than on the road too. So anyway, next game here we have Sunday Night Football. It's a real doozy here. Giants and the Bills.
Real barn burner.
Yeah, right. This line opened up Bills minus 14.5. It's down to 14. There's actually a lot of sharp money coming on the Giants. So who do you like here?
I like the Bills, but not much. Maybe for 1 unit. It's a high number, but I just can't bring myself to back the Giants. They've been dreadful. And I'm actually very surprised to see the public split on this. Well, maybe I take that back. I thought there would be like a little more of a lean on the Bills, but it seems like pretty evenly split, at least from what I could see. The Bills just lost to the Jags. I mean, the thing that they're coming back from London, so that could certainly have an effect. But I mean, they just crushed the Dolphins. I mean, the Bills are one of the best teams in the NFL, and I just can't think like the only like this would be like a quacky play if I took the Giants, like just like 100% on feel. If I took the Giants here. I'm not even sure if there's going to be a backdoor cover opportunity here. They've been dreadful on both sides of the ball. But I don't really like taking favorites that often at all, let alone minus 14 or a high number like that. But I'd say I like the Bills here for 1 unit. Can't think of a reason right now to take the Giants other than just to be contrarian or because I have a quacky feeling about it. So I like the Bills here. What do you think, Walt?
So Cal's asking the main question here: are the Giants getting the offensive lineman back? She means Andrew Thomas and Saquon Barkley. If so, at 1-4, what do they have to lose here? Yeah. So that's the problem. Like, first of all, we don't know if Andrew Thomas and Saquon Barkley are going to play. Like, I thought there was a chance to play last week, and they just didn't. So like maybe they sit out again. We'll see. We'll have to see the injury report. Like, these teams haven't practiced yet, so it's hard to say right now. But like, even if they come back, like, there's no guarantee they're going to be 100%. Like, it might take them a game. Well, especially like the offensive lineman, it might take like Andrew Thomas one game to get into playing shape. And maybe he's just going to be okay, but which is still an upgrade over what they have now. But like, we may not see him at 100% until like his second game or maybe his third game back. So he's been out for a while, so it's still like it's really difficult to say. And I like, we saw this game last week where the Giants are at the Dolphins, a similar spread, a little bit less, like 12.5, but still. And the Giants almost covered, but they were playing a Dolphins team that's not as good as the Bills. And like, if you want evidence of that, just remember what happened in Week 4 when the Bills killed the Dolphins. The Bills have, or at least just say like the Bills at least had an elite defense. That's the thing that's tripping me up here, is that like, if the Bills still had Matt Milano on the field, and like not even Tre'Davious White, because like the Giants receivers suck, but like Matt Milano being out is a big deal. Like, the Bills losing him, I don't know how good their defense is going to be without him. They still have an elite pass rush, so like there's that. But losing Matt Milano is such a big deal, because he's like the do-it-all linebacker and on their defense, and like not having Tremaine Edmonds anymore, like that really puts them, I feel like, behind the 8 ball here. Like, not here necessarily in this matchup, but like going forward. And so like not having Milano and White, I feel like that's going to open up some like backdoor opportunities for teams. And so like the Giants could get there, given that how banged up the Bills are right now. But then again, like, the Giants could still be banged up. Like, if they're missing Thomas and Barkley, and if like Daniel Jones doesn't play either, like he's questionable. Like Giants have no chance. Now, if they get all those guys back, then they might have a chance. But so this is a tough one to call. Like I said, the sharps are on the Giants, and I get it. But one thing to note is, like, I like backing good quarterbacks coming off a loss, and Josh Allen, since his second season in the NFL, he's 10-4 against the spread after a loss. So,
Wow.
the Bills are going to be focused here. If they had beaten the Jaguars, I could definitely get behind Giants. But right now I have the Bills penciled in on my computer. I actually use pencil on my computer. So, yeah. Yeah, Chris saying Giants are 33rd in his power. I wonder, like, who's ahead of them? Like, who made it second? There's that really good XFL team, DC Defenders. Fair enough. Yeah, Giants are so brutal. Like, they are the worst team in the NFL right now. But if they get Thomas and Barkley back and they're 100%, they're suddenly not the worst team anymore. Like, I think the Panthers would be at that point. So, yeah, like, everyone's saying the Giants are not viable, but yeah, we'll have to see. The injury report will be very telling, I think. Anyway, the Monday night game, we have Cowboys at the Chargers. This line opened up Cowboys minus 2.5. It's down to 2. I think I saw it at 1.5, and then it bounced back up to 2. This, I'll tell you this, Dallas is getting more sharp money than any other team in the NFL this week so far. It's only Tuesday, but still. So who do you like in this game?
Interesting. I actually like the Chargers. I have them written down here for 2 units. So the Chargers coming off not only a bye week, but an extra day here with the Monday night game. I know that they've been battling with some injuries this year. But I think this team is talented. And they've had back to they started off really slow. I had high expectations for them. Yes, Staley or McCarthy. Yeah, as a Packers fan, I know firsthand what McCarthy's capable of too, for sure. But no, and Staley certainly factors into handicapping the Chargers for sure. And look, they started off slow, 0-2, but they lost some close games. One of them was against the Dolphins. They have back-to-back wins now, but now neither of them were necessarily very impressive. But it might be good momentum for them going into the bye week here. Maybe they can come out with a better approach, better look. They have the bye week and an extra day. They gave away the game versus the Dolphins, in my opinion. That really sucked. And then they lost the Titans in overtime. So it's not like they got like completely crushed. I know their defense is definitely suspect. But now, I mean, to start 0-2 and then get back-to-back wins, even, no matter how unimpressive, I think, they've showed a little bit of resiliency. I think this could be a good spot for them at coming out of the bye to maybe, kind of turn over a new leaf, start fresh, and maybe come out and play a little bit better. The only thing that's concerning for me is that Dallas coming off a blowout loss. I kind of like teams coming off of a blowout loss. But then at the end of the day, I mean, this Dallas team, they've beaten the Jets, Giants, and Patriots. I mean, you know what I mean? And like, I just feel like with Dallas, it's like also like every year, like you get high on them, and then every year they're gonna, I don't know. I feel like even with the injuries, I think that the Chargers are still a little bit underrated. I'm not 100% sold. I mean, I kind of like the 70-20 reputation. I mean, is Dallas? Dallas is living off the reputation, maybe of a couple blowout losses or blowout wins rather. But again, they beat the Jets, Giants, and Patriots. I mean, color me unimpressed. So that's how I feel. I mean, I have right now the Chargers for 2 units. So what do you think here, Walt?
So, like, before I get to that, there's a question of Justin Herbert's hand injury. It's the fractured finger on his left hand, not his throwing hand. So like he was able to throw. He had that one deep pass to Joshua Palmer to ice the game, but he couldn't line up on their center because he couldn't take a snap. I mean, he had a bye week, so obviously that'll help, like rather than having normal rest. But I don't think we'll know. And like, it's tough to get any injury reports out of teams because like I said this last week. I was super frustrated by it. Like the Bengals had never limited Joe Burrow in practice. He was always full. And so you just could never learn anything from it. It was so annoying. And like the worst thing was Derek Carr was limited last week, and yet he was 100%. So like I don't know what to make of these injuries anymore. It's sadly we won't know until the game starts. So maybe if you see him play poorly, like you can live bet it or something. We question the Sport 78 asks, when you combine how bad Dallas was offensively against the 49ers and how familiar Kellen Moore going up Dallas defenses, the game should easily go over. I could definitely see the game going over. Like the Chargers defense is really bad, and that gets me to my pick. So if you look at like all the units in this game, the Cowboys are they are 12th in offense and they're 4th in defense. The Chargers are 5th in offense, but they're 25th in defense. Like that is by far the defense. The Chargers is the worst. So like I feel like the Cowboys should be able to bounce back. They're coming off that brutal loss, embarrassed on national TV. I think they're going to be playing at their best. And it's funny that you mentioned that the Chargers had the week off to prepare for this game. Like I feel like that could be a negative for Brandon Staley, given how bad he is as a coach. So it's certainly not a positive. Like I feel like the Chargers didn't really get anything out of the week to prepare. So anyway, I like Dallas. I think this line's a little short. If that game against the 49ers hadn't occurred, I think that this line would be like closer to -3. But anyway, yeah. So I think that like we might be getting like some value with Dallas, and we get to fade the Chargers, who always seem to find a way to lose a close game or to embarrass themselves. Whereas like Dallas, they're not well coached either with Mike McCarthy, but at least they tend to win some of these games, whereas like the Chargers always lose. So yeah, I'm on Dallas. Like especially coming off that like embarrassing loss, like they're going to really be up for this game. And given how bad the Charger defense is, like they shouldn't have a problem scoring. And their defense is going to get some stops against the Chargers, especially if Justin Herbert's not 100%.
Mm-hmm. No, and I definitely agree. Coming off the blowout loss is a little they're nice, Cal. That's good.
Yeah, a little suspect like a midget in a police lineup.
Good comment. Good comment. Yeah, and like I mentioned, that's a concern of mine as well, coming off the blowout loss, especially because Dallas they are a very good team. I really, we've talked about this before, Walter. It's like good team. A blowout loss like that sometimes like half, not necessarily halfway, but like at some point in that game you might just say, okay, like let's pack it in, just look forward to the next one, sort of thing. And Dallas is good enough that. I remember we did that. I was over at your house, Walter, a couple of years ago. It was Golden State and Memphis won by like 40, and we were both like, let's take Golden State. Like, I love the taking teams off a blowout angle. Good teams, I guess good teams is implied. But yeah, I mean, I think I know what I think you make some good arguments here, and I definitely don't disagree. I don't know. Maybe I just like this Chargers team a little too much. I keep waiting for them, despite their injuries and whatnot, waiting to see if they'll turn it around. But I think it'll be a good game. I see a lot of people in the comments saying I think it's going to go over. I don't doubt that it will. I think it could be a lot of fireworks, hopefully on a Monday night. So,
yeah, for sure. I remember that. It was really a couple years ago. I felt like it was like almost yesterday, but
I know it does feel like a long time ago. But it was, or no, wait, when was it? It had to have been like 20.
I think it was
it was the year they won 21. No, 22.
Yeah, I think my son was alive. Like
yeah.
So yeah, well, I mean, he's still alive. I made it sound like he's not alive. My son was born. I should say.
His son had been born already. Is what
the correct terminology. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway. I want to show you this. I think this is interesting. It kind of goes along with what you were saying about good teams bouncing back, and like I don't like relying on trends, but this is teams over 500 coming off losses of 25 or more. I just took a arbitrary number. This dating back to 89. They're 87-71 against the spread, 55%, which is pretty decent. It goes to show that like teams coming off. Like blowout losses, they tend to come back, especially if they have winning. Oh, here we go. This is even better. Teams with winning percentages of 60% higher coming off losses of 25 or more, they're 66-38 against the spread. Wow, that is really good. That's 64% cover rate.
Incredible.
Yeah, and we had this twice this year. We had the Redskins bouncing back against the Eagles, so I wouldn't count them as a good team, but this is a legitimate thing. The Dolphins, off that blowout loss to the Bills, they covered against the Giants. And they had a sloppy game, and yet they still covered. So anyway,
right. That's a good sign.
I like this. I mean, like I said, like I hate trends, but you can really explain this. Like good teams winning percentage 60 or more off blowout losses, they'll bounce back at a almost a 2/3 rate. So yeah, I like Dallas for sure. Okay, so we have two things to do here before we sign off. One is the teaser. I'm going with Redskins plus 8.5, Bears plus 8.5. All teasers look good. That's why they're called teasers. But what are your thoughts on this one?
Oh, I really like it, especially for getting those key numbers. If the wind is, especially if it's windy in Chicago. I really like that. I do think I know I said I like the Falcons minus 2.5, but I think it's probably likely that they win. Somewhere. If they are going to cover. I mean, obviously I could be wrong, especially this year. But I like getting all the key numbers with the Commandos there. So no, I might take that now.
Okay, good to hear. So we also have Survivor. Jacob's not on, but he texted me his Survivor pick. So let's write that in. He is going with the Eagles here. So his Survivor picks have been Ravens, Bills, Niners, Chiefs, Dolphins, and then he went Eagles. So last week, Jacob and I differed on our survivor strategy because I thought that going with the Lions over the Dolphins was the better strategy because that allowed you to take the Dolphins this week. And that's what I'm going to do. So if you don't have the Dolphins, you have to go with, as Cal pointed out, asked earlier, like if you don't have the Chiefs either or the Bills, like you have to go with either the Rams, and we both like the Cardinals in the game, or the Eagles, which like, the Bills lost at the Jets and the Chiefs almost did too. So that's a super scary pick. And, Jacob, he's getting a 7-point favorite. So I think he's going to win. I would just rather have the Dolphins here. I just think they're the right side. So anyway, well, in before the Dolphins lose to the Panthers, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't think so either.
Carter asking, is Jacob on the Eagles -7? I have no idea. I don't know. Jacob texted me who he likes in golf this week, so I can enter in DFS, and then I asked him about Survivor. So Jacob was he had a conflict today; he couldn't come on. He will be back next week. But it was great to have you on, Tom. It was always a blast to do the show with you, and I want to do this more often because you're a great guest, and it's great insight here for the week 6 picks, and So any final thoughts? And if not, do you want to plug your stuff again?
Yeah, I mean that's about it. I mean, I'm hoping we can't really get much worse. We had a pretty disastrous week, but every season you're going to have weeks like that. It's still really early. I have a good feeling about a lot of these games. So yeah, I think we had some good discussions here, and I think we're gonna turn around this week. But yeah, I'm Quacky T. You can find me on TikTok has now become, much to my surprise and chagrin in some way, has become, I'm going to expand other platforms. But if you search Quacky T, or my handle is @Quacky Takes with Tommy. I'm not doing the sports picks as much, but I'm doing video game speed runs, and I ramble a lot about sports in my streams. We have a lot of fun, really gaining some traction, have a lot of people in there. Whether you come for the video games or the quacky ramblings, it's a good time, and hope to see you all on there.
Yeah, sounds good. I am, like I said before we start recording, I'm waiting for you to get on a platform that I have access to.
Yeah, soon. I'd say in like a month or so.
Okay. Wait, what am I doing here? Someone asked me what the Brandon Staley's record is after the bye. But he's only coached 2 years, so we don't really have enough of a sample size. But he is 2-0 against the spread after a bye. He beat the Eagles outright. I remember that game that went back and forth. Justin Herbert won at the end. And then he lost to the 49ers 22-16. That was on Sunday Night Football, I believe. And yeah, the Chargers had a lead at halftime. They just ran out of gas. So that was like they didn't have Keenan Allen or Mike Williams in that game, I believe. I could be wrong, but I think like that was when like they had a bunch of injuries. Like Josh Palmer is their number 1 receiver, I think. Could be misremembering, but yeah, like so 2-0, like, but he could easily be 2-2 after the next 2 years.
It's not much of a sample size, but that is interesting. That isn't
assuming he gets 2 more years. We'll see.
Seriously.
Well, Chris says, now that we're finally done with this NFL nonsense, back to Mega Man, which robot master would make the best quarterback, and why Dive Man? I don't know. Like, I don't know. Metal Man. Like, do you see how like the precision of which like he throws those metal blades, like even jumping in the air. He can do those jump passes. I have to think about this. Like, this is a really important question. And like, I actually want to do a show. I actually like planned this out. We didn't get to in the summer. I want to do a show with you, making an NFL roster using Mega Man bosses. So like that's something to do in the summer when like nothing's going on. So
yeah. Oh, that's good. Who would make the best quarterback? You know what, Chris? I'll think about that next time I'm on the show. I'll definitely have an answer for you. Dive Man, though, huh? Interesting. Dive Man is one of the more hard man at fullback. I agree with that. Hard man is like the Mike Allstott equivalent of the Mega Man bosses. So good call there, Chris Fluke. So
yes. yeah. This is like I said, really important stuff here.
Yep.
I actually want to do. Yeah, I really want to do the show. We'll have to do it in the summer, like I said, when nothing's going on. But
for sure, I'll sign me up. Let me know when. I'll be there.
Yeah, Chris says, "Thank you. Please don't rush such an important question." Yeah, it's something we have to think about and
Yeah.
really delve into it. But
It's a matter of great concern, Chris. I don't take it lightly. Don't worry.
charge man for running back, yeah, for sure. But
Man, okay.
given the name, he probably fumbles a lot. Like the Chargers will find a way to screw up. So,
Oh, okay.
but
I have to think.
that
I
doesn't
have
make
to,
sense. Like that, you definitely want charge man or running back. I agree.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, what about? I mean, I guess like Quick Man would probably make a good running back too. Like
oh,
some. Like,
he'd be the receiver. He'd be like
oh,
the
that's
downfield
true. That's
receiver.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I yeah. We have to find like something for Flashman who can stop time. Like I don't know. I don't even know
Yeah.
what position that would be.
I think like Toad Man would be a good center. Like
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
he's big enough to be on the line, but maybe not like a tackle or guard position. I don't know.
Yeah.
Quick Man would
Chris.
be Tyreek Hill. There you
Oh
go.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So yeah.
Great stuff.
Well, we'll definitely have to think about this in more
Yeah.
detail, not just spitball, but yeah.
Yeah.
Like I can't wait to do that show with you. Anyway,
That would be fun. That'd be a great time.
yeah, follow Tom on TikTok if you have such a thing on your phone. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, I think, with Kenny. If not, probably Thursday with Kenny, but it's hard to say with our schedule. But I think we'll be on with Kenny tomorrow to do DFS. On Thursday, I'll do Thursday Thoughts. I think we're going to have a guest this week for Thursday Thoughts. I have to make sure. And then Saturday, going to do Saturday Notes again, as we've been doing. Chris says Flashman could teach coaches like Mike McCarthy and Brandon Staley how to use time.
That's good.
That's
That's
correctly.
good.
That's great.
That's
Yeah,
good.
that's it for sure. All right, guys. Thanks so much for commenting and listening. I really appreciate it. Please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. All that would mean a lot to us. Chris doesn't know what to teach us Moses. That's definitely true. All right. So yeah, we have to. It's close to 1 o'clock, so we have to get going here. But thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Tom, for coming on and
Welcome.
being
Thanks for having me.
great pinch hitter for Jacob. And I'll be back tomorrow, pretty sure with Kenny, but otherwise, I'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks a lot, Walt. Have a great night, everyone.
All right, too.